you went to UCLA in the mid to late '60s. You worked with people like James Buchanan and Armin Alshian. What was it like to be at a place like UCLA then? This was a hotbed, not simply of, it was the American dream to be in California in the '60s, but also from a libertarian point of view, this was a powerhouse department for free market ideas.
Well, as I said in the book, I did not know that I was anything about UCLA when I entered there, and I didn't know that it was one of the top 10 economics departments in the country, and I was in well over my head. These were some of the top professors in economics in the world, and I benefited immensely from going to attending UCLA. But however, it was quite a challenge for me.
How much did that form your ideology or your, kind of political thought?
Well, I think it awakened me in something I've always been a radical. I've always challenged the status quo. But however, I did come out, I supported things like minimum wage laws because I thought it was a good idea, until I ran into some professors and say, well, look, Walter, let's look at the effects of the minimum wage law as opposed to looking at the intention. They gave me material to read, and then I changed my mind. But I think that my free market ideas got polished at UCLA and being exposed to some of the greatest economists in the world.
Do you think that you benefited from having a kind of roundabout route to studying economics as opposed to, being a whiz kid and, graduating high school when you're 13 and then going directly to college and a PhD?
If I had gone to college right after high school, it would have been an unmitigated disaster. I was
for
immature.
The country as well as the
as you.
For me,
at least for me, I was just unprepared to make the sacrifices necessary. And I think many times that's true with many people today. That is, I'm very sure if I had to do it again, I tell my wife that it went with my daughter. She went out, she was 17 years old, and she went right into college. And the first year or so was a disaster. And I said, if we had to do it again, I would have gotten her a job at McDonald's or at a car wash for a couple of days to let, a couple of years to let some maturity set in. So maybe gaining some maturity, by a year or two outside of education, and then go to college. And then, but more importantly, pay your own way.
Would you have been able to go to college? I mean, you mentioned quite often that how heavily subsidized, and particularly in the 60s and 70s, I mean, the UC system, Cal State system, very subsidized, it's effectively a free education. Wasn't that a good thing, though, even if it's coming from the state and even if it's being expropriated from taxpayers?
No, it's not a good thing. No, it's not a good.
Would you have been able to go to college otherwise?
I might not have, and a lot of the incentive for my wife and I to move from Philadelphia to Los Angeles in 1961 was that no way in the world I could afford to go to Temple University. Temple University was the cheapest school in the city, and I think it was like $2,000 a year to go there. And I went to Cal State LA, and it was $125 a year. I believe it was a year there. And so I got a highly subsidized education. And I don't know whether I would have gotten an education, but still, that because I got an education, it doesn't mean that it was a good idea to rip off the California taxpayers.
Well, do you think in a cost-benefit analysis, if you take yourself and everybody else who went through Cal State and the costs associated with that, and then the payback, because you certainly have paid a lot more back in taxes than the, what would it be, about $400, $500 for 4 years of Cal State at 125.
Not to the California taxpayers.
Okay, all right.
Because when I finished ripping them off, I left. But however,
is it a fair question from a libertarian point of view? We all want to say, you know what, nothing should be taken from the taxpayer except very small pots of money that go to clear public goods, and education doesn't meet that test. Yeah. So, but then again, you're working at George Mason, you worked at Temple, these are state universities. Is it such a bad thing that I could have just as soon gone to Cal State or UCLA
they charge a tuition of $5,000 a year, and I could have gone out and robbed somebody and got the $5,000. So you wouldn't like make the argument that, well, gee, Williams robbed the guy to get $5,000, and he's going to pay it back, and later on in life, by higher taxes or whatever. But the solution to the problem is that we need to do something with the financial markets to enable people to be able to get a loan to be able to go to college, and then of course pay it back.
George Mason has become a very well-known hotbed of libertarian, laissez-faire economic history from a free market perspective, from a libertarian perspective. How did that happen? How did you go from helping to build George Mason's academic reputation from kind of so-so to really moving it up a few notches?
Well, I think all the responsibility is not mine. I share with my colleagues, but I became a chairman in 1995. And I was chairman from 1995 until 2001. When Buchanan won the Nobel Prize in 1986, we had 26 faculty members. And when I became chairman, we had 18. There was considerable hostility towards our department, and I tried to work with the administration to rehire those people. And I had a lot of difficulty, and so I just said, well, the only way I'm going to improve the department is to try to privatize the department and actually go out and raise money to be able to do things with the faculty, to be able to to hire people and to subsidize hiring people. And so a lot of it was with the generosity of supporters out there, the Lilly Endowment and the
Olin Foundation.
And the Olin Foundation.
Now, this is, I mean, so you brought in a new revenue stream.
Oh yeah, I brought
in
a lot of money, yeah.
A lot of people in the academy and from outside say, okay, this is a kind of corporate takeover of the university and of the academy. And
it wasn't a corporate takeover.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, talk about that. How did you secure academic freedom for your research faculty?
Well, yeah, I think that the people who gave me money, and a lot of it was just private donations. The people who gave me money, they respected me and my ambitions and my vision, and I had complete say-so over how the money would be spent. And so
that explains the gold fixtures in the men's room here on the economics building.
I wish I did, but they had no say-so in how the money would be spent. And then also towards the end of my tenure as chairman, my colleagues, actually they're very successful in raising money, were able to hire Vernon Smith,
right.
and matter of fact his crew from Arizona, right. And bring all seven I think here. And he was here for a year and a half, and he won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, you guys timed that perfectly, didn't you?
Right.
But let's talk a bit about the broad-based libertarian movement. Do you feel that you're part of a libertarian movement?
No, I don't.
No. So what are you then?
Well, I'm not a part of a movement. I've never been a part of a movement. I just I just do my own thing.
Can we tally up a score and say, are we more free, are we less free, are we moving in the right direction? Are you happy about the world that your daughter is inheriting and that your grandchildren might?
I think for the first time in our history, it's prudent for parents to tell their children to have enough gold and silver coins, enough to be able to get out of this country and move to somewhere
Canada?
Else. Well, somewhere else. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, for example, Jews in Austria, I mean, they should have had enough money to get out, and it didn't make any difference where they moved.
Right.
So the point is that for the first time in our history, people are considering leaving or taking their wealth out of the United States, where all before United States was the bastion of liberty and low regulation, and people are bringing their wealth to our country. So I think that we have to be concerned about losing our liberties.
What needs to happen for that to reverse? I mean, and it's one thing to say, okay, we got to reduce regulation, but what are the kind of policy steps and the kind of psychological or ideological steps that need to happen?
I don't think anything's going to happen. I think what one has to ask himself is, are we so arrogant as American people to think that we are different from other people around the world? That is, do we, or how different are we from the Romans who went down the tubes, or the British, or the French, or the Spanish, or the Portuguese? These are great empires of the past, but they went down the tubes for roughly the same things that we're doing. Liberty is the rare state of affairs in mankind's history. Arbitrary abuse and control by others is the standard dish, even now. And all the tendencies is for us to have greater and greater amounts of our liberty usurped by government. If you press me for a trend in the opposite direction, because of the Obama administration, the Democrat control of the House and the Senate, they've become so bold in many of their actions that for the first time in my life, Americans are debating about the Constitution, with people forming the Tea Party movement and all this kind of fervor that I've never heard before in my 75 years of life. But is that enough, or is it too late?